Action.
Welcome to Off Camera, the UC Film Society radio show all about movies. I'm Ollie,
I'm Jake.
And I'm Cam.
and we'll be your directors for this episode. This week, we've all watched the recently released Kung Fu Panda 4, and
Yes,
we'll be
we
discussing
have.
that along with some other relevant movie information. We won't jump straight into it,
Yeah.
because I think we need a bit of build up before we talk about this movie,
Build
because
the hype.
we all have a lot of thoughts, and it was a hype movie, and
Yeah, for
we'll
sure.
we'll get into it. But
Let's definitely
First-
start with Rachel watching.
first, we'll talk about what else we've watched recently. So, Jake, why don't you go first?
I'll go first. Okay. I watched Adventureland, which is a coming-of-age comedy starring Jesse Eisenberg and Kristen Stewart, and definitely one of my favorite Eisenberg performances. I love this movie. It really hits a lot of boxes for me. A really personal favorite of mine and pretty underrated. I then went to the theaters. I saw Immaculate, the new Sydney Sweeney horror film that got released recently. Decent film. I didn't hate it. Definitely had some problems.
She's been in a lot recently.
She was
though.
really good in it.
Yeah?
Like I'm not a huge fan of her acting skills, but her as a horror scream queen in this was really good. The first half I wasn't sold, and then it became good. But yeah, the writing wasn't there, the directing wasn't there, but could be worse. I then went to the Soviet screenings Ben has been holding and watched Andrei Rublev, which was one of the best films I've ever seen. This film was 3 hours, black and white. I was so intimidated by it and Tarkovsky, the director of this film. And then it finished, and I couldn't have been more pleased with what I watched. It was so entertaining for being that long and being in black and white. It's a slow movie for sure, but the way it captures this person's life, some of the best filmmaking I've ever seen.
I was so surprised when I saw your review. I was like, damn,
Yeah,
it really hit
it
that
really
hard.
blew me away. So that weekend, I watched another one of his movies, Stalker, which is a movie I've owned for like 3 years, but I've never watched it. So I decided this was the time. It's definitely the most popular of his work. It's a science fiction film. It's very high concept, but not a lot actually happens in it. Kind of like Andrei Rublev, very slow, very atmospheric, but another one of the best movies I've ever seen. I also watched the new Taika Waititi film, Next Goal Wins, on Disney Plus. I actually didn't hate it. It's a lot better than Thor: Love and Thunder. You definitely can not feel the studio restraints. Ultimately, I just don't think it was for me though. Like the comedy, I could still feel like there was an over reliance on it rather than balancing it like he does in Jojo Rabbit, like in Thor Ragnarok. Some solid bits. I like Michael Fassbender. Taika fans like you, Ollie, I'm sure will love it and rave about it. Which is
I still haven't seen it yet,
Yeah.
but now that it's out on Disney Plus, I'm definitely gonna watch it.
It's an easy watch.
I've been saving it.
Yeah.
I've heard that Michael Fassbender was really like improvisational on
Interesting.
set, and that a lot of the stuff he does in it is actually like improv based on the script.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And so I'm intrigued to see how
Oh,
that
wow.
plays, because I know lots of people are saying that he's the best part of it.
Yeah, that makes his
So-
performance a lot better.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder how that impacted though the balance of comedy,
Interesting,
because if
yeah.
they already had so much written into the script and then he was going off the rails, improvising, and they were like, "Oh, this is just too good." I wonder if that
Yeah.
threw the balance off a little bit.
It doesn't feel very Fassbender though. He doesn't
It's
seem
very
like
weird.
someone who would improvise,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is weird to say, but I feel like he could do a little tiny bit of ad-libbing, but not as much as you're saying he did, which is really cool to see.
And it's very weird that he made this movie and The Killer in the same year. The movies could not be more different. The roles could not be more different. It's fascinating. But I'm a
And
fan
obviously
of his.
this one's the more compelling role, right?
No comment. And then I watched the movie we were going to talk about today.
Which you won't name. Because
You guys have
it's a,
already
no, no,
named it.
It's a surprise.
This is a surprise.
It's a surprise.
Even though we've already mentioned it.
No, we haven't. It's a big surprise.
Okay.
What did you watch this
You'll
week, Ollie?
bleep it out.
I watched a variety once again. So did I talk about Speed last time?
You did.
Yeah, okay, I
Yeah.
thought so. So what I watched The Boy and the Heron. Such a fantastic film.
Unbelievable stuff.
Comparing, like, I can imagine the dilemma that the Oscar award, like the committee would have had trying to decide between that and Spider-Verse, but I can see why they went with that. it's just got that essence to it that's like this really special film.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Spider-Verse,
Mm-hmm.
but like this is its own thing. It's
Yeah.
very unique and separate to any of the other movies that were nominated for that category. I just love Ghibli. I love the storytelling. I love the art, and it was just a treat to watch. And I watched it dubbed, and the voice cast is just crazy. Like Florence Pugh voices the same character, younger and older, and you cannot tell.
Mm.
Robert Pattinson voices the titular Heron, and it's actually insane.
Yeah.
No part of me, if I hadn't known it was Robert Pattinson, would have ever guessed he was the voice actor. Though there were a couple, there was like Willem Dafoe shows up for like literally 3 lines, and it's immediately like, oh, that's Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
And then Mark Hamill, again, his voice, I've come to recognize it now.
Yeah.
Like, apart from Luke Skywalker, he has like 2 voices: his Luke Skywalker voice and then his
Joker.
voice acting voice.
Joker. Yeah.
It's very
And-
specifically Joker, but you
Yeah.
can pick up in it the Hamilisms. That's a bad way to put it, but you
Like-
know what I mean.
Like, it sounds very
Can we coin
Ozai.
that? Hamilisms.
You should coin it.
It sounds very Ozai
Mm-hmm.
and very much like his character from Invincible. Like
Oh, man.
it's very like particular to his voice acting
Mhm.
style, and so that was also immediately recognizable. But everyone else, Christian Bale does his British accent,
Mm-hmm.
and that's less recognizable, I think, to some people. I think it fit his character. And I immediately knew it was him, but it also wasn't quite as like, I know who that is. That's Willem Dafoe.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't as immediate.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, loved that movie. It
I'm
was
so
fantastic.
happy you loved it. So
I then watched the Spider-Verse short film
Mhm.
that came out on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Spider Within. It was fantastic.
very cool.
The Spider-Verse team have created a short horror around Miles. It gives so much more weight to his story and Across the Spider-Verse, which already had heaps of power and impact behind it. And it's just genuinely terrifying.
I honestly forgot I watched that, and I'm looking right at it. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was only like 7 minutes,
Yeah.
and it was an easy watch, but such a powerful short film. I watched our film for today, which we'll talk about. I watched Air Force One.
Interesting.
I
With
hadn't seen it.
Harrison Ford.
Yeah,
Oh my
I hadn't
God.
seen it before. It's very of its time, stylistic 90s action movie. Harrison Ford plays the president, and
course
it's
he does.
about what you'd expect. It's about what you'd expect. It was fun though. It was
Have
a good
you
watch.
seen his Jack Reacher?
I think so.
It's pretty much the same character. It's pretty much the same character, but in that, I don't know. I like that style of like, is it 90s ish?
I think he
Kinda
fits the
action.
role.
Yeah.
It works, and it was a pretty good film. I'm not probably not Gary Oldman's like most compelling performance, but he still brings a fear factor.
Interesting. He plays the villain. I assume.
Yeah, he's the villain in the film,
Classic.
and he's a strong actor.
He's great.
So
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah.
It's just like comparing that to like Commissioner Gordon the Serious Black, any of his other
Lord
more
Shen.
General Shen,
General Shen, who didn't speak at
Lord
all.
Shen, sorry.
So stupid, but we'll get into that.
Yeah,
But yeah, we'll talk
Um,
about it.
yeah. Like I don't know. It was a good performance. It was a fun movie. I gave it 3.5.
Nice.
Then Moneyball. I watched Moneyball.
Yes, dude.
I
Movie's so good.
honestly did not know what to expect. I thought it was going to be a lot more like maths based than it was, like in the story. Obviously, the events of the story are maths based, but I thought the storytelling was going to be more maths based. I thought we were just going to get bombarded,
Mm-hmm.
and we weren't. And it was really a really compelling story, and it ended at a point in the story that I didn't expect,
Ending's great.
but it worked so well.
Very powerful.
Really good movie. I think, I'll definitely watch it again. I think it is
Mhm.
fantastic. Jonah Hill is awesome. Brad
Yeah.
Pitt is
One of my favorite
stellar.
Brad Pitt performances.
But yeah, I need to give myself some time before I rewatched that.
I'm surprised you liked it as much as you did personally. I didn't think
It
that would be like
reminded me.
your,
It reminded
style
me
of
of
movie.
Ted Lasso in its like
Yeah.
sports storytelling. You didn't need to understand anything about baseball,
Yeah, you really don't.
which is the same with Ted Lasso about football.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like you're in it for the characters and you're in it for the journey,
Yeah,
and
they tell the story really
that's
well.
that's why I liked it. I mean, it is a Sorkin like
Yeah.
influence, and you really feel that by the end. You feel that. I'm not
Mhm.
sure you feel it like as you're going along, because I think The Social Network is probably the only other thing of his I've seen, and
Yeah.
they are worlds apart in some ways,
Yeah.
but very similar. in
Social
others.
Network, Sorkin wrote completely himself,
Yeah.
and then Moneyball, he kind of worked hand in hand with
Yeah.
someone. So I guess
But because it's based on a book,
that too. Well, so
and a
Social Network.
true, but this one's based on a book and a real story. So are the other. So is The Social Network,
Yeah,
but they're very different stories,
for sure.
and
Yeah, yeah.
they're both from different authors.
Yeah, that's true.
You really feel the influence of the original authors in each piece.
Mm-hmm.
But I really enjoyed it.
Very fun.
It was great. I watched L.A. Confidential.
I really want to see this movie.
I didn't know anything about it going in. My mum, I was watching it with my family. My mum confused it for an entirely different movie, L.A. Story. And so we watched it, and it was great. Really compelling character study with also very interesting, like, action, and it's police drama and
Russell Crowe.
Russell
and Guy
Crowe.
Pearce.
It was really cool.
That's
really
weird
good.
to see
I'd recommend
two
it.
Aussies in an American
Yeah,
cop film
yeah, I'd definitely
Yeah.
recommend it.
on Netflix, I think.
Yeah, it is.
I've been recommended this film a bunch.
Yeah, it surprised me. I was just expecting like another cop movie, but no, it was compelling storytelling wise. And then last night I watched Ponyo. It's really good. I love Ponyo.
I really want to see Ponyo. It's
Nothing-
one of the few Miyazakis I haven't seen, so I gotta get
Nothing else to say. I love
Yeah.
Ponyo. It's fantastic.
I'd be really interested in doing like a Studio Ghibli screening thing, but
We totally should.
we should.
There's so
but it's
many
just,
to watch,
It's just
though.
getting the rights around it. That's all.
Yeah,
We can investigate it further if you guys
Yeah.
would be keen.
I would be.
Cam, what about you? What have you watched?
I watched a bunch of things. So I hadn't watched Kung Fu Panda 3, so I went back and watched 1, 2, and 3.
Good.
Nice. Thoughts on 3 now that you've seen it?
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. 2 is still my favorite.
Interesting take.
I'd go
Well,
2.
It's not that
1.
interesting a take. It's pretty standard take.
I'd
Yeah,
rate
true.
2 over 1, and then I won't spoil my rating for the other things, but I'd say 2 is still my favorite. I also watched the Spider Within, the Spider-Verse short story,
Mhm.
which I had to check the date because I thought it was Halloween. For like, this feels like something that would come out at Halloween,
That's true.
like as a teaser for this film that's coming up. But yeah, I liked it. I really liked it. Is it on IMDb or something like that?
It's on Letterboxd.
It's on Letterboxd. All right, well, I have to rate it there. But yeah, it's such a good little short film. I love it. The animation again, good to
Always
see it.
going to be breathtaking to me to see that animation.
So good.
Yeah.
It's like a simpler version because of
Yeah.
it's a lower budget,
Yeah.
but
yeah,
it's you don't feel that. You don't feel
No,
that it's
not
a
never
lower
once.
budget.
Never once.
yeah. I also watched. Where is it? Come on, almost there. I also watched Across the Spider-Verse again.
Oh, nice.
Still love it. This time I
movie.
wanted to focus more on like the score side of it and
Yeah.
the music and the audio side.
Which is unbelievable.
Oh my god, I love it.
Yeah.
This is one of the best soundtracks / scores to a film that I've ever heard.
Daniel Pemberton went so hard.
The fact that he didn't get nominated for this score
Yeah,
is
I'm intrigued.
really whack. Like I said, John Williams, Indiana Jones. Did he deserve it? No.
Not for that.
Not
Like-
for that score. Yeah.
All my love, John Williams,
Yeah,
one of the best
He's the
composers
goat.
of
Go
all time.
composer.
But
I think it was just fan service, respectfully.
No Pemberton and no Hiyashi. As
Joe
Yeah.
Hisashi.
Yeah. For Boy and the Heron.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Anyway, we've talked about that.
Yeah, I watched that. And then I also watched all of their Cinema Wins respective videos.
Nice.
That if you're interested in filmmaking, I would highly recommend looking at this channel, Cinema Wins, on
Great
YouTube.
channel.
They do amazing breakdowns of films,
And screw Cinema Sins. We all
Indeed.
hate Cinema
Not
even
a
Sins.
though they
fan.
have so many more subscribers.
Yeah.
But no,
True.
Cinema Sins is also fun to check out. Most of the time, it's just
I'm
for the
anti
comedy, but
CinemaSins.
they do definitely make some very fair points when it comes to rating films. And I
Sometimes.
respect them.
But I saw, like, it had literally only been a couple of days, but they had already made a video after, like, one of the episodes of Invincible.
That's
It was
so
like
dumb.
Invincible season 2, episode 6 or something. It was like everything wrong with this episode. And the Cinema Sins episode was like 23 minutes long. Invincible episodes are like 45 to 50 minutes long. That's half of that episode just for a Cinema Sins video. I was, and it had come out so recently after it. I don't get what they choose to make their Cinema Sins on and why. Because a lot of the time it's just like, oh, they used a trope? That's not allowed. And it's like, well, yeah.
It's all for
they
the
use
purpose
tropes.
of comedy.
I know he's doing
But
it for
yeah.
his fans, but it's also total. This is obvious, but it's not a right way to watch anything.
Yeah.
To watch it and look at them, but
No.
that's
But
just-
I'd highly recommend Cinema Wins.
for sure.
Because it gives you, like...
It would be
it's-
so funny if it was actually just the same guy. Like doing different voices.
I would feel betrayed.
Yeah, true.
I would start crying.
And then I also watched 4 short films.
Nice.
Run, The Pot Plant, Water Baby,
Your
and
own
The Coffee.
films.
I did a little bit of a family screening because they
Oh,
were like,
nice.
"Oh, you should show us your films that you've been making." I'm like, "Okay, here you go." I'm not
Nice.
too proud of them, but that's okay. It's still
You should be.
something cool that I'm happy to make. I did like The Coffee Order. I'm very happy
Coffee
with
Order is
that.
awesome.
how
film.
that turned
Great.
out.
They're all great.
They're all great, indeed.
Well,
It would have
We'll
been
see.
a long screening just from Water Baby.
no, that my mum. How far in?
Did you watch it on 2 times speed?
No. About a quarter of the way, and my mum was like, "Oh, I've seen this before. I don't like this film. Next one, please."
Wow, it's a bad take.
Okay, thanks, mum.
Great film.
And they're all like, "Oh, why'd you make this decision? Why'd you make this decision?"
Oh, that's annoying.
And that's not me. That was the director. Sorry. But yeah, cool. Always good to go back and rewatch your stuff after a while, and
Indeed.
you've like become disconnected from it.
Yeah.
I find that's really awesome,
Yeah.
and then you can make objective, well, not really objective, but still
Better judgment.
That's
better
when you get the
judgment.
most out of it.
So you're not really attached to it.
Yeah.
So you're not really attached to it, and you can look at it from more of an outside view.
Cool.
And that's I
Didn't
also
you
watched.
see something in theaters yesterday?
I did. I nearly forgot about that.
How could you forget about that?
Yesterday afternoon, I went and watched June Part 2 again.
Oh, interesting. Good movie.
Yeah,
think it's
you know
alright.
what? It's okay. I'd highly
I would
recommend.
watch it.
I love this movie so much.
You would.
Yeah.
Never seen it before.
Yeah.
I can't wait until it comes out on 4K Blu-ray. 'cause
comes
I will
out
be
Yeah,
in
only,
May.
only $40.
May.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother month.
Comes out on VOD on
Just
April-
for
in
reference, we're
April.
shooting. It's currently 10:20 on Tuesday evening.
The 2nd of April.
and counting
So
down the seconds
every
until I
while
can
we're-
have Dune 2 4K in my life.
Oh my goodness! But
How many
you
is
can.
it?
How much?
How many seconds is it?
A lot of seconds.
You said you're counting them down.
I will.
Hang on. He's meant to make
Mentally.
You can get both of them for I think it's $56.
It's not bad. 4K Blu-ray.
4K Blu-rays.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Considering
Considering one
they're
is like
usually
$40
$40 each, yeah,
Mhm.
that's pretty good. But that's still a lot to
I got
spend on
3
two
for-
DVDs.
Side note, I got 3 4Ks at JB Hi-Fi yesterday, or a few days ago, for $40.
Are they having a
Wow.
sale?
Buy 2, get 1 free, 25% off as well.
Not bad.
Too bad it's not going
I
to
got
be
the
next
Batman,
month.
I got Mission Impossible Fallout, and I
Yeah.
got Terminator 2.
The Batman is.
A good movie.
I need to rewatch it.
Oh, I
Okay.
also watched the Batman.
Oh, great movie.
Yeah, true.
For
you're talking
like
about
the 5th time or
Yeah, I've
something.
seen
It's
that
such a
movie.
good movie.
Yeah.
I've
Greg
actually
Fraser.
only seen it
Go on.
1.5 times.
Don't ask him why it's 1.5. All right, cool. That's what I watched this week. Now, let's get into the deep dive. So, over the past couple of days, all of us have gone and watched Kung Fu Panda #4.
Separately?
We didn't watch it together this time. Which is I don't know,
Reasons.
reasons.
Yeah.
I don't know. Somebody had a birthday present to do. I guess.
You're not invited to my birthday party.
Oh my
Anyway.
god. Yeah. So Jake.
This should
Ollie,
be Ollie.
Ollie,
This should be
Ollie,
Ollie.
your turn
I'm
this
gonna
time.
go first.
Yeah.
Do you want to give us a quick overview of Kung Fu Panda 4? Full warning for everybody. Spoilers, obviously. Go and watch it before you watch this. It should be out on DVD, on physical or something very soon. Well, not
Who's
very
to
soon.
say?
Who
It's in
knows?
theaters now.
Definitely go and watch it before you
It'll
listen
be in
to
theaters
this.
once you hear this.
Okay, first things first, it's worth the watch.
Yes,
It's another
yes.
entry to the Kung Fu Panda franchise, fantastic cast, fantastic premise.
It's not
So-
necessarily this one.
So they're fun and worth the watch. It is still enjoyable. That being said, I felt like this was okay. I'll give you a rundown first. Po is told by Master Shifu that he needs to start looking for the successor to the title of the Dragon Warrior because he needs to move on and become the spiritual leader of the Valley of Peace.
AKA Uguay before he passed.
Yeah, he needs to take Uguay's place and find someone to become his successor that he can train so that he can focus on keeping peace in the valley. He then proceeds to find a thief who's attempting to rob the Jade Palace and go on a journey with her to take down this villain called the Chameleon, who is currently in the process of stealing people's kung fu, notably famous masters such as Tai Lung, Lord Shen, General Kai, the villains of the previous films, as well as other characters who we haven't met before or who may or may not have been in some of the TV shows or who are just like background characters who have been mentioned in the other films. And so they all that happens. Po and this character Zhen go on this journey. They end up in Juniper City and they fight the Chameleon, and that's the overview of the film.
Mm-hmm. Pretty simple story.
It is a pretty simple story, and I think that works to its benefit.
Yeah, for sure.
What I will say right off the bat is I didn't feel like this was Kung Fu Panda 4. I felt like it was Kung Fu Panda 5 or 6.
It felt like they
based on the
skipped a step,
premise.
for sure.
Like, I know we've had 3 films of Po being the Dragon Warrior, but the first one was just like,
The build up.
yeah, he's become and becoming the Dragon Warrior. It's the very first movie. And then he gets the second one. He is the Dragon Warrior. He's an established Dragon Warrior, but it's only been a couple years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't start seeking a successor like that soon. Understandable. Third one, I feel like that's when he fully sets into his role as the Dragon Warrior. Only by the end of the third movie does he actually feel like he himself understands being the Dragon Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
It feels, yeah.
And so it feels
very
rushed for him to then the very next movie, which admittedly came out 8 years after the previous movie.
Sure. Yeah.
Even if we imagine 8 years has happened in lore, if we go from the first movie where he becomes the Dragon Warrior in 2008, and then up to this movie where he's passing on the mantle, that's 16 years.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that is quite a long time.
I guess, but you never really feel it.
But only going from like the third movie where he feels like he's set and understands what being the Dragon Warrior is like, 8 years isn't that long.
Yeah.
And so it's not that I disagree with the premise, it's that I disagree with it so soon. Like, I feel like there should have been a movie in between. And I know there were heaps of TV shows and they explore... They're not... I've only seen bits and pieces, but I don't think they have the same sort of level of journey. And you can't rely on them because they're not given the same production budget.
The TV series are very similar to, like, they're not really, the effects from one don't really carry over to the next episode. So it's all very much,
like,
they're all very
it's a bit different
disjointed.
to, as much as there's like controversy and hate around like the Marvel TV shows, they are relevant to the stories of the movies.
Totally.
You can entirely watch the movies of Kung Fu Panda without having ever watched a single TV show episode, and it makes no difference. Whereas you couldn't watch some of the newer Marvel movies without having at least understood the
100%.
plot of the TV shows. So it's not that sort of level of integration.
Especially when they started coming up with like the newer, after Infinity War, you needed to watch everything up to Endgame or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To
Loki,
understand-
WandaVision.
Yeah, to understand Loki, WandaVision, Winter Soldier. Well, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
To,
So-
yeah.
So yeah, that's my main caveat. So I'm not going to judge the film like plot-wise based on it being Kung Fu Panda 4. In my mind, that's a whole separate issue, but in my judgment of it, I can't treat it like that's the problem.
I think
Like
I think we should all judge it based on the movie that we've seen,
Yeah.
not how it relates in the series.
Good call. Good
Yeah.
call. I'll try my best.
And so, with that being said, the story, I didn't mind it. I didn't feel like it was as
That's our first category.
strong.
Story is our first category.
I didn't feel like it was as strong as the other ones, but just going off its own thing, it felt very, in a way, sort of copied from the second film. Like, something happens in the valley that means they're sent off to fight a villain in a big city who's threatening the way of life of all of China and is doing something which threatens the balance of Kung Fu. That is the plot of both the second and fourth movies.
Yeah. Gongwin City is very much like what's it?
Juniper City.
Juniper City. It's very, very similar. You focus less on the city, more on where you need to be, where the end goal is in number 2. Yes, sure, but it's still leave the Valley of Peace, go to this other city, be a little bit of an outsider, and then kill the bad guy.
This
Ins-
might sound mean, but it felt like they weren't trying. They felt like they were just showing these characters and they were like, okay, we'll get away with it, and trying to force a message in there. And you said something recently on another podcast episode that Kung Fu Panda is all about the message, which I totally agree. And the message to this film did not hit, and it's pretty forgettable in my opinion, which is
See,
a big shame for me.
I came out of this film, I watched it with my partner, and I said I didn't feel like there was a message, and she was like, "Are you serious? There was a very obvious message." And then she reminded me that it's pretty much the message is change is okay. You have to accept change, and that is a valuable thing for a kid to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not kids, and we are more used to change than a younger person would be.
Yeah.
It's true.
But comparing that to like understanding your identity and who you are is not defined by what you look like, and the messages of the first 3 movies, it's not as strong.
Yeah.
But looking at it as a message of its own, I think the message itself is not necessarily the problem. It's the presentation
Execution.
of the message.
For sure.
And I think that is not as capable as the other films because the story is a bit predictable.
100%.
Now, I enjoyed like the banter, and I enjoyed some of the characters. I thought Poe's dads really
Amazing.
shone in this film.
Amazing.
Bryan
stuff.
Cranston got to return and bring his special charm to Lee.
I always forgot that like he doesn't sound like Bryan Cranston though.
Yeah, I know.
It sounds
I love it.
It sounds like someone doing a Bryan Cranston impression. I'll be honest,
I
but
was so happy with how much they
the
ran.
banter between the two of them
Mhm.
and that relationship building, I did not expect for this film.
Yeah. Definitely the best
Even-
part of the film for me.
Yeah, even after number 3, I didn't expect them to play such a big part. And
Yeah.
speaking of, I'm so disappointed we didn't get to see any Furious 5.
Yeah.
Like,
I got so many thoughts.
the
on
last bit at the end does not count.
that. Stupid.
We didn't get to see any
Cheap.
of them.
It's fake.
I'm
Okay,
so
so-
disappointed.
So the reason I think, now this is speculation, and it's probably been said in interviews, but I don't know exactly why. So I read a thing before the movie came out that said that initially the Furious 5 weren't in it. The studios were like, nah, we don't need them. They're not important. and then the only reason they're in it as much as they are, which is very, very little, is because one person was like, we need to be able to market it, and like it's not the same. It feels like it's not the same franchise, and so they were on the side of like having the Furious 5 because it's part of the character of the movie, but also it's like a marketing thing. And so they're like, fine, we'll throw them in at the end. But yeah, it feels like a different, like Kung Fu Panda. I know Po is the titular character and obviously is the favorite because we love Jack Black and we love Po.
He's the main character.
We love the journey.
Speaking of,
But
actually, no,
the
we'll talk about that in
the Furious
last category.
5 like really help amplify him because they show traditional martial arts in this world. Obviously, monkeys and snakes don't do martial arts in real life.
What?
But we show like they show what traditional martial arts is like, and these are the experts. They are the peak of martial arts. And then there's Po, who is, as they say in the first movie, a fat, chubby panda, who actually
No
is-
character development there.
is the one who manages to fight off all these villains that they can't beat with their traditional kung fu. And that's because he has this ingenuity and this charm and this capability inside him that is not defined by his exterior. And we don't get to see that in this movie because we don't have the Furious 5 to contrast.
Yeah.
And so I felt like there was some attempt to do that with the inclusion of Tai Lung, and I loved what they did with Tai Lung in this one. Ian McShane,
Great.
fantastic
Cool too.
actor, fantastic voice actor. They got to do a bit more with him, even give him, by the end, somewhat of a redemption. Like, it's not a full redemption, but you can see that he's a character who has remorse for his actions while still having resentment towards Po for what he did to him. But he was
he's so
a
good.
side villain.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he wasn't even the villain of this film. He was just there.
Yeah.
I will say that opening though, the opening was really good.
Yeah, they had
And
goat slavery.
Kind of.
I missed the animation.
It wasn't
openings,
slavery.
You know.
It was their business. That was a business. It wasn't
True,
slavery.
True.
But that opening was so good. I think, and it kind of disappointed by what we got, but
I feel like,
yeah.
and now this is maybe a bit cynical, but they marketed the film so heavily on it being Tai Lung, Lord Shen, and General Kai were coming back, the villains of the 3 previous movies.
Which is lame.
And they never hid the fact that it was the chameleon and that it's one villain can turn into all of them. But they were really like, these 3 are coming back. And yeah, like you say, it is a little bit lame to rely on that rather than, like, the chameleon is a competent villain, like a strong villain idea.
Great idea.
But I felt like they didn't build her up enough. She was just a crime boss. Like, the other 3 all have redeeming qualities, where she just felt like an evil person with no good anywhere in her.
less complex.
It
Yeah.
was my least favorite part of the film, which was a shame because all the villains in 1, 2, 3 are so memorable, so amazing. And I like seeing Tai Lung, like that was awesome. But all in all, I didn't like how they brought back the villains at all. Like seeing Lord Shen come in and not say a word at all.
I think
while
part of the
understand-
reason why they
was dumb.
didn't bring the
That-
voice actors back for the villains, and also why they didn't bring the Furious 5, it's just so much money.
I guess.
Like Angelina Jolie, Jackie Chan,
Yeah.
Seth Rogen, who was credited even though Mantis said no
Nothing.
lines.
Does he laugh?
Lucy
laugh?
Liu.
Yes, he does actually.
Who else is there? Who have I missed?
Mantis Crane.
Crane. Yeah,
David
so
Cross.
David Cross.
Yeah.
And then J.K. Simmons and Gary Oldman.
I agree.
Like those are big names with who would cost a lot, but you'd think that they'd have a passion for their characters enough to come back for at least a couple of lines.
Or don't include them in the plot.
Yeah.
Like
Like don't have their characters there because
Yeah.
Lord Chen standing there, he was on screen for
And he doesn't say a word.
a couple
It
of
felt
minutes.
fake.
It was a solid couple of minutes of screen time.
They
He
haven't
didn't say anything.
Yeah, it's dumb.
and it doesn't feel like his character.
You
Anyway,
you said something in your review that if they were so set on not having the Furious Five, the story should have commented on it. I reiterated that in my review. So you don't need to have these characters in it as long as the story kind of reflects that. I'd rather have that than have them show up but not enough. You know what I mean? So there was some bad decisions there.
I definitely think they wanted to do one thing, and then in doing that, they missed out on another thing, but they didn't figure out the right way to tie it all together.
So overall, the story, Ollie, what would you
I'd give the story 2.5 to 3 because I feel like it had some strong things going for it. It just wasn't executed in the best way. Like I say, there were some predictable moments. Like I knew from the beginning Jen was going to be working for
literally
straight
straight away.
the chameleon.
Yeah.
And it was so obvious that as soon as Jen showed up, they were going to be the candidate for the replacement Dragon Warrior. Like that was those two things.
Yeah.
The key twist for like the like conflict, and 2, the like key plot point that got Poe set on his journey. Those 2 were immediately obvious from the beginning. Whereas I'm not saying they should have been like a twist surprise right at the end, but it should have been a bit more like maybe not throughout.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll give it 3 because I still like it's still Kung Fu Panda and it still rides off the success of the other 3.
Still the characters.
And it has the characters are still strong. Poe is obviously amazing.
He's great.
So yeah, but it has its flaws.
Yeah. Jake, what would you give it?
Give it 2.
2, yeah.
Lame, lazy, didn't feel the message. Love seeing Poe, love seeing Ping and Lee. Every scene with them was delightful. But other than that,
one thing I do want to comment on just before we like wrap up story is Poe. I loved Poe throughout, but one thing I didn't like was they wanted us to believe that he's this fully realized dragon warrior who has defeated all these villains. But then at the end, when the chameleon takes all of the villains' powers, like all of their kung fu, we don't feel like Poe even stands a chance. Like they're constantly saying to us, no, Poe, you can't do it. No, you can't do it. And he even seems like he knows that he can't do it, but he's doing it anyway, which is admirable. But how do we all know that he can't do it? He's beat all of these guys that the kung fu she's taking. Like, why can't he defeat them?
Yeah.
Like, he's done it before. And the reason I think this is complex is because he gets trapped in this cage, like halfway, 2/3 through the movie, and he tunnels out through the ground because he supposedly can't damage the cage. And then right at the end of the movie, he gets trapped in the cage again. And then suddenly he just like breaks out, which means that he was able to do it the whole time, even the first time. And so it's then, the way I then interpret it is that the whole time, from pretty much the moment he meets Zhen, he's known everything that's going to happen. Like, he's known that Zhen was going to betray him. He's known that Zhen was then going to have to fight the chameleon.
I really don't like that idea.
He's known that Zhen would become the next Dragon Warrior. And if that's true, which is fine in some ways, they just have to build up to it. But or they have to have him actually be incapacitated so that it feels compelling that Zhen is the only one who can take this on. Yeah. I didn't love that Zhen could almost match him in Kung Fu power, because he should be essentially the best at Kung Fu.
Speaking on that, I will say before I give my rating, this mystical force of Kung Fu is, the power imbalances here are so out of proportion, because the chameleon could still kick Poe's ass without this Kung Fu, and then she gets it and still can kick his ass. And you can't really... it doesn't feel... There's so many imbalances here.
Yeah, I just think the problem with the story is they didn't work out the correct balance of all these different plot points, and of catering to new fans and old fans, and of catering to, like, making it a story for young kids or for, like, teens and older.
Depends the franchise.
They just,
beginning.
yeah.
It is giving me Toy Story 4 vibes, unfortunately.
I I wouldn't compare
in
movies.
the same kind of like, okay, a little bit of fan service,
True.
but the story is a little bit off. Like it feels off. Something about
A little bit.
both of them together. Like if you compare them, they both feel slightly off.
Yeah.
And I don't really think that it's more of a. It's very much more of a cash grab, unfortunately.
Yeah, you can kind of feel that in
Like-
both. I agree,
Yeah,
which is a shame.
and there's nothing really like I get. Nothing's really explained about kung fu in particular. And yes, this is a kids movie. We are taking this way too seriously.
No, I mean,
But this is a
Spider-Verse
kids'
proves
movie.
that you should take kids' movies seriously.
That's not.
Even the rest of the
I think
really
Spider-Verse
even the
is a
rest
kids movie.
the rest of the Kung Fu Panda movies
Exactly.
show that you should take kids.
Toy
movies
Story,
seriously.
Puss in
Yeah,
Boots
yeah.
recently. I think there's amazing kids' movies that are serious and tell serious messages and tell them well. So
Unfortunately, this one just
Fair.
fumbled a bit.
Yeah.
But hopefully, because it doesn't feel like this is... 3 felt like it could definitely be the end of the franchise. Like, it felt
For
like
sure.
they could make another one, but they didn't need to. This one, it doesn't feel like it could be the end. I feel like there will be a 5.
yeah,
Which
See, that's interesting because
questionable though it may be, they may get the opportunity
the
to
person
redeem
I went
themselves.
to see this with, she kept saying that this really felt like this is it. There's no more. He's
In a way,
ascend,
yeah.
which
but
I
I never
100%.
felt that
I
once.
didn't
I-
feel like
I
at
get-
the end...
I don't agree with it. I really don't want to have to agree with it because it's a great series. We should keep it going. But I can see where she was coming from.
I can see how they might have wanted it to be the end because they're training a new Dragon Warrior. They're like, after this, Poe's not even going to be there. And but they didn't end it saying, you are the Dragon Warrior. You have the
you
capability.
might become the Dragon Warrior.
They were like, we're going to train you as the Dragon Warrior. And then they had that montage with the Furious 5. It just wasn't definitive enough.
One thing I'll say about that montage, though, Jack Black and Tenacious D's cover of "Baby One More Time," Britney
Ah,
Spears.
No,
That's-
don't talk about it yet. Don't talk about it yet.
okay,
We'll talk
sorry.
about it in the
Sorry,
score.
I didn't
I
wanna
have so many
I
things to
didn't
say
wanna
about
spoil it.
this.
I'm sorry.
But
I didn't know where to bring it up.
Just to end off the story category, I'm going to give it a 2 because of all of the previous mentioned reasons. Next category, voice acting.
Interesting.
What are we thinking?
I loved Jack Black, Lee Ping, so Bryan
Yeah.
Cranston and
James,
James
Hong.
Hong. I loved Ke Huy Quan.
He was so good.
I
He's one of my favorite
liked.
parts about it.
I did like Awkwafina. I feel like you are combining her character with her
Personality.
voice acting.
Yeah.
Because I feel like her voice acting was good. It just didn't fit Kung Fu Panda. It was good voice acting.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
I felt the character in her performance. It's just like it didn't feel like part of the world,
Mhm.
whereas the rest of them feel like part of the world.
Yeah, I didn't hate it. I'm usually not a fan of Awkwafina. I was coming into that ready to hate her performance and hate
I
her
like
character.
the only other thing I've seen Awkwafina in is Shang-Chi, and I loved her in Shang-Chi.
Oh, she's pissed me off in Shang-Chi.
I thought she was pretty good.
Interesting. Okay. But maybe it's just a me thing. I don't know.
Surprise voice
Definitely
actor though.
just a you thing.
Mr. Beast voiced the panda
Okay.
pig.
Oh, he
The
was in
pig
it?
who has one line. You know the pig when they're doing the Dragon Warrior tryouts at the start, and there's the
Yeah.
pig that is dressed like is painted to
Dressed
look like
like
Poe.
Poe.
That
That's Mr.
has
Beast.
one line, and it's Mr. Beast. And like people were going so crazy, like this is terrible, worst decision ever. It's fun.
I didn't
It's-
even
it's-
realize he was
exactly.
in it.
For a minor character that doesn't
it's
impact
just
the story
it's
at
just
all.
a thing for kids and for people who are interested. I think
Sells
it's
tickets.
funny. It sells tickets. I don't think it's a problem. I think it's the same as getting the same. It's like I don't know. It's a cameo. It's just a little bit of fun. And I
Mhm.
think it's worth it.
You got taken way too seriously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thoughts on Viola Davis as the chameleon?
I just feel like the chameleon has all this potential that they didn't live up to, and
100%.
Viola. I feel like Viola felt this and was like, "I'm not going to give it 100%."
Yeah.
'Cause,
Because
like-
she's an incredible actress.
Yeah, and I think she did well, but I just feel like the character didn't have enough moments to shine and really actually feel menacing.
Yeah.
And so she didn't have an opportunity to
Yeah.
be fully menacing. Like Shen and Kai and Tai Lung all have these moments
They get it. Yeah.
where their voice actors really get to go hard, and because she doesn't have any of that like redeeming qualities, any of those redeeming qualities, she doesn't get to have a moment where she like gets to push her morals onto the main character or onto our protagonist. Like Tai Lung is the villain, but his rant towards Shifu, you really feel
One
for
of the
him.
most emotional moments in that movie.
Yeah. But we never feel anything like that towards the chameleon.
Yeah.
And so that means Viola Davis doesn't get a moment like that, which
Yeah.
I don't think is her fault.
Yeah.
I don't think her performance would bring my rating of the voice acting down.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I don't think it's the best. I think that's a character thing and a story
Yeah, I
thing.
feel like the voice acting, like all of it is hurt by the character. Like it's not the voice acting, it's like the actual character problems this film has. So yeah, I agree with that.
On a positive note, Ronnie Chang as the fish.
Oh, Ronnie
The
Cheng as
fish-
Fish
the
was
fish
I love it.
fantastic.
I love it.
Great character.
I
loved
Ki Ho
Kwan.
Kwan, sorry.
Amazing.
I always love him. Every single one of his
Fantastic.
movies. I
Such
love it.
a good actor.
It was cool to see him play like a menacing person,
Yeah.
even though he wasn't like totally menacing.
He
It
did
was-
have
it was
like
still
the
pretty-
villainous moments.
yeah,
it was still,
he was a better
you know-
villain.
I wasn't
than
expecting
Chameleon.
it, you know? Yes, he
Whoa,
was.
all right. No. And James Hong as Mr. Ping. Absolutely
Fantastic.
killed.
Every movie he's so
Yeah.
good. in.
Excuse me, that was terrible.
Not enough Shifu in my opinion, for my liking.
He shone at the start.
He was pretty good at the start.
Like his
He was so funny. He was so
Yeah.
good.
Dustin Hoffman, fantastic.
him.
But again, like Shifu is only there to push
I
the
know.
story that we don't love, and so we sort of reflect that onto Shifu, even though it's not really his fault.
Honestly, I kind of wish Shifu was not in any of the movies after one. As much as I love him, I feel like one wraps up his character nicely, and then two,
No,
three,
two-
4, he kind of just pushes characters along.
Two, I
I
like
think
him in
he
two
needed
because
to be in two.
he sets up the inner peace thing,
Oh, he does.
and then
need to be in
Poe
two.
like overtakes
yeah,
him.
True. Yeah.
In 3, I like his role. It could have been done by someone else, but I like his role.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like what I don't get about the story, why isn't Shifu the spiritual leader of the Valley of Peace?
Because
while
he
Poe-
wasn't chosen.
I thought
by
that's how
Uguay.
While Poe is the Dragon Warrior, because Poe was chosen to be the Dragon Warrior. Anyway.
There's
totally agree.
there's very clear conflict there between Shifu and Poe, where Shifu wishes he was chosen by Uguay to be the spiritual leader, but even though Poe says he doesn't want to, and if he didn't push him, Shifu could have been the spiritual leader, and it would have been fine, I think. But
They didn't explore any of that conflict.
no, they didn't even explore it. It wasn't like, hey, you take my job for the weekend and we'll see how it goes. It was, nah, can't do it. He said no. He said you have to do it, even though he's not here anymore.
Yeah. I do wish they referenced Uguay more in this movie than in any of the others, and yet we didn't see him.
Yeah.
I wish he had shown up. Like, if they were going to bring people from the spirit realm and take their kung fu, like Kai did,
Yeah.
take their chi, why not bring Uguay in as the last guy right as Poe comes in? And so Chameleon doesn't know Poe's there, but Uguay knows Poe's there. And they have this moment where Uguay is talking to the Chameleon, but he's really talking to Poe, and Poe understands finally what he has to do. And so that's when he gets to fight the Chameleon, but then eventually take the back seat so that Zhen can take out Chameleon, fulfill the role of overtaking the enemy that controlled her all her life, and fall into the place of being the next Dragon Warrior.
Yeah, if they really, really wanted to like sell Poe becoming the spiritual leader, they would have brought him in. But I think they were more focused on
Because right
focusing
at the end of 3, Uguay goes, I've done my time, now you have to be the Dragon Warrior. Like that happens at the end of 3. And then literally the next movie they're like, bam.
They skipped the movie.
Yeah. Even though this is more story and we've already talked about this.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's relevant.
the voice acting, I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, real quick,
What are you gonna
the power that the chameleon inherits from Tai Lung, I feel like it was the home brand version of his stun. It was so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway,
But anyway,
that's
a fun
I would give
point.
it 4.
I would give it 4 too.
I give it 4. 4 overall. Next category, animation, which is kind of to do with the cinematography and visuals, but I put cinematography in a separate category.
I found the animation weird. So I feel like what they've done,
I know what you mean. It
They've-
felt too
they've-
polished.
they've taken the the 3D animation style of the other 3 movies, and they've dialed the quality of it up to 11, so much to the point where it almost feels like some of the fidelity has been lost. Like it's like the lighting and the shadows are better, but they don't have and they have the very fine detail, but it's almost so fine that it becomes smooth again. It's like there's almost too much detail that you just sort of gloss over it. But I thought, I don't know, it just felt like a safer version of what they'd previously done.
Yeah.
Like I think in the first movie, the animation is still a little bit rocky, but in the second and third movie, it feels crisp and I think it has some of that grittiness that fits the style because they blend all these different animation techniques. Whereas this one, it felt like they lost that grittiness and they just went like, we're going to show off how good our techniques and abilities have become.
Even though no disrespect to DreamWorks
Oh,
here,
no,
because
fantastic.
The
it does
animators
look
have
really
gone-
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the being able to see the individual hairs on Poe's face as they move when he talks is super cool.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel very.
Yeah, it just feels
this
like-
style has been
Yeah.
created.
It felt, yeah, it like I still loved it. While I was watching it, I was jumping back and forth between like, oh, this is such good quality, I'm really appreciating it, and then going like, oh, this is almost too good quality that like
totally.
it doesn't feel like the same movie,
Yeah.
which is a weird problem to have because it's
Mhm.
very good. But yeah, and then the stylistic stuff, they didn't have as much of it as they have in the other 3 movies.
It was so good though. The black and white.
What they did was really cool.
The black and white fight scene.
But it went away so
What's in
quickly. If you're
silhouette?
gonna commit to something, commit to it.
Yeah, I get that. I feel like
It
what
was-
they explored was really cool. They just didn't.
They
commit
played
to
it too safe.
It
They
was
held
very video gamey though. In the bit where they introduced like the next boss fight, where they had like the kind of character cards, I thought that was really cool, and they could have lent into that so much more. But I think, yeah, you're right. They played it way too safe.
Mhm.
I would have expected them to go a little bit more, far-reaching
Yeah,
with
that's successful
with the
nowadays.
style because of especially
Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
That opened so many other possibilities
Yeah.
for these films, but it's
Yeah.
I'm a bit disappointed, but overall,
I give what was there 4.5.
yeah,
I just feel like they could have had more of it. Like that's a good problem to have, is that there wasn't enough of a good thing. Like it was really good. I just wish they'd had more.
I'm gonna give it a 3. The animation was really good, but like you say, almost too good to be jarring.
It was
to
a
me.
little bit jarring.
jarring to me. It took me out of the movie at certain points, which is not what you want.
But
at
I
all.
was I was definitely gasping. Like, whoa, this is really cool in some
Yeah.
moments. And that, even though it was jarring in some, that boosts the rest of it for me.
Sometimes I'd rather just be invested in the story.
That's fair.
And then, like I said, felt too restrained, so it was not what I wanted from the animation at all.
yeah. I
personally.
think,
But it wasn't bad.
I'd sit
like-
in between you. I'm gonna give
I'm
it
gonna
a
give it
4.
3.
I reckon. Next category, cinematography. Look, I don't know. I might start this off with saying it's yeah. There's nothing special about it. I don't think. There's a couple of interesting shots that are quite unique, but apart from that, yeah, I don't know.
I
So-
definitely felt like there were some moments where I was like, whoa, that's a really interesting thing they've done. That's really
Yeah.
cool. But it didn't feel like
Nothing that I'm
that
gonna.
happened a lot, which
Didn't-
it did in the other
Nothing that
ones.
really inspired me, like for my own work. Which, if I find that a film that I like a film quite a lot, it'll be based off mostly the cinematography and the visuals and how much I can use that in my own work.
Mm-hmm.
And here I know it's a cartoon and, you can do so many more things with a virtual camera, but yeah, it's okay. there were quite a few unique. I like the chase through the city with the bulls.
Amazing.
The
scene.
camera work in that. Oh my god, it was so good.
Amazing scene.
I have score thoughts on that.
Me too.
Okay,
Um,
okay. Next category, last category.
but-
next, but yeah.
But yeah, I don't feel like I can comment on the cinematography specifically, separate to the animation. I don't feel like it jumped out at me as being particularly bland. Like it just those two categories blended together for me.
I agree, and kind of like the story felt like it was on autopilot. Kind of like let's just put these characters. Let's just frame
Yeah,
them.
it's like let's just look at the scene.
Just standard.
No, wait, can we make this interesting? Okay. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, we kind of can, but let's just see what the characters are talking about.
Didn't jump out to me at all.
Okay, let's talk about score.
We didn't score
That
the
wasn't very.
cinematography.
That wasn't very big.
I don't feel
cinematography.
like I can, so you guys.
Okay, so
So we could put it the same as animation, I guess.
and
Yeah.
What
I'm
would-
just
what would
I'm
you
just
give
gonna-
it?
I'm combining
3?
mine as part of animation.
3.
Yeah.
Okay. I give it a 4. Final category. Score. Ollie, take it away.
Okay, so in preparation for this, I listened to subsequently the first 3 soundtracks, and the first 2 go so unbelievably hard. Hans Zimmer and John Powell together, those like Hans Zimmer, we all know, absolutely
He's good.
fantastic. John Powell,
Yeah,
one one of my favorite composers,
He's
did
great.
How to Train Your Dragon. Those 2 working together, it's just so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It perfectly works for Kung Fu Panda. Then for the third one, John Powell is gone. It's just Hans Zimmer on his own, and it's fantastic. I love it, but it's
There
it's
aren't as
different.
many standout
Yeah.
Kai's theme,
tracks.
though.
Kai's theme.
Kai's theme goes so hard.
I think
and
it's the
on
only
this-
one that really stands out for me in
on
that
this
film.
on this
unfortunately.
new on this
I agree.
re-listen to just the soundtrack directly through in chronological order without watching the film. I could really picture the film, and
Mhm.
I felt the soundtrack really works just to make each moment more powerful, whereas in the first 2 the soundtrack stands out as its own separate
Yeah.
component.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
the third one, I feel like apart from Kai's theme, it really just lifts
It's
up
blended.
it,
Yeah.
which is good. That's what
No,
you
it's,
want.
It's really good.
But the first 2 go above and beyond.
I agree.
The fourth one was Hans Zimmer and Steve Mazzaro. Now, I've looked up Steve Mazzaro. He's done Kung Fu Panda 4. He's done the 2 Boss Baby movies.
Oh, this says a lot.
He did
my
Army of Thieves. He's done the 3D animated SpongeBob movie.
Jesus.
And then just a couple of other random ones that I don't think any of us know. And now, that's nothing against Steve Mazzaro, but
Tough beat.
I didn't feel like this was the strongest score,
It was very mid.
especially given the fact that they brought back these iconic villains who all have iconic leitmotifs and iconic themes. There's only the barest hint of Tai Lung's theme throughout the entire score.
Made me so
It's-
mad.
It's
he,
hardly
he
there.
also helped with Hans Zimmer live in Prague.
Yeah.
What?
Did we hear Kai's theme once?
No.
No.
Like, come on.
Kai's theme and Shen's theme aren't in it at all.
If you're gonna bring the
Tai
characters-
Lung's theme is there for maybe 20 seconds total over the whole score.
Yeah, it's bad.
But
Isn't
that's
that
that's
just
a
mostly in the
stretch.
beginning as
No.
well? No.
Oh,
kinda-
yeah, a little bit in the
little bit.
beginning and a tiny bit at the
That's
end.
pretty sinful.
That's
Um,
pretty sinful. Ding.
So-
I'm joking. Yeah, exactly.
so that in itself is disappointing. But I didn't feel like we got a lot of those epic orchestral moments, even just of like Poe's theme or like the Kung Fu Panda theme in general.
yeah.
It's a lot of
Maybe once.
It's a
but,
l-
yeah.
it's a lot of new stuff, and I have nothing against new stuff. I think that's fantastic. If they'd only relied on the old themes,
Would feel
that would
cheap.
it would feel cheap. But at the same time, these are the same characters. Why are we not using some of those themes, blending
Uh-huh.
them in, and creating something new that incorporates them? I don't know. It's interesting. I love the song Crazy Train. I did not in the slightest enjoy it in the film.
When was it used? During
In the
chase?
running of the bulls thing. They do a Kung Fu Panda-ified Crazy Train by Ozzy Osbourne, and it really took me out. I was hearing it throughout. I was like, what is this song? What is this song? It feels weird. It doesn't fit the vibe. And then it was the very last bar. I got that it was Crazy Train. And I was like, no. It just didn't work for me.
It was bad.
But the other song that they used...
Oh my God. This went straight into my playlist.
Maybe the most iconic thing ever.
It was, it was teased. Jack Black has been teasing it.
I had
for
seen
so
it
long.
beforehand. I didn't know that it... So I had seen Jack Black cover it. What it is...
That was
Sorry, that was me. I just wanted to listen to Crazy Train.
What the song is Baby One More Time, covered by Tenacious D, Jack Black's band. And it goes so unbelievably hard. I had seen Jack Black cover
Black
it.
and all of the kids from School of Rock.
Yeah. I had seen
Great movie.
Jack Black. Well, I'd seen Tenacious D play this cover before I saw the movie, but I didn't know it was in relation to Kung Fu Panda. I thought they were just doing it. I was like, oh, that's sick.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was watching the movie and the credits started playing and the montage with the Furious Five and the song started playing and I lost my mind.
Hardest needle drop ever.
Actually fantastic.
No,
It
hardest
was-
needle
it
drop
was
of the
so
year, I
good.
reckon.
I don't want to be
So
mean to
good.
this movie, but this was the best thing this movie gave us.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest.
Jack Black is the best part of this movie.
Yes, and
in both
In-
the score
in
and the
both
performance.
sections.
I felt
Yes,
myself
in both
levitating
sections.
when this moment came on.
It was so good.
You're like floating out of your seat.
This cover is better than the original. It is so
It's a hot take.
iconic. Like Tenacious D covers it. I wonder if they had some help from Hans Zimmer. He's not credited on the song, but like it does have the Kung Fu Panda vibes.
Mm.
But it really is Jack Black and I forget his partner's name in
I
Tenacious
gotcha.
D.
God, I feel bad not knowing this.
It's
Kyle Gass.
Kyle Gass. I knew that, but I couldn't think of it off the top of
Yeah.
my head. But yeah, Jack Black and Kyle Gass. It's so them, and it works so well, and it really stands out compared to the rest of the score, which just is fine. Like it's not bad because it's Hans Zimmer. Like, but it's just compared to the rest of them, which have such standout moments. It's really nothing special, unfortunately, which really disappointed me.
But this was made for Kung Fu Panda, which is even better.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, what would you give it, Ollie?
I'd give the
Overall.
score a 3.5.
All of that's propped up by Tenacious D.
Are we bringing those together? Is
No, I think that's separate. I think
Okay.
the score on its own
'Cause
is
that's
3.5, and that's
That's
5.
five. Yeah.
Score
that one
slash
song.
sound.
Yeah, 3.5.
This is all together.
I feel the
Sound.
sound design
Oh,
in
yeah.
there was good. I loved the fight sounds that they do,
Nothing
But-
nothing really stood out to me.
and the sounds of the city were fine. But yeah, it was just like,
I definitely heard a car honk at one point.
interesting.
really?
I can't remember where, but I remember specifically hearing a car
Interesting.
honk. Maybe it was
Maybe
because
it was an animal honking.
it might have been the cinema next door, but I specifically heard a car honk and it threw me off for a solid 5 minutes trying to pick it. But
I'll give the score and sound separate to Jack Black's Baby One More Time a 2.
what did you give it?
I'll give it 3.5.
Okay.
What do you give it?
I don't know. I'm really disappointed after hearing Kai's theme specifically.
Yeah, man.
That has
They didn't bring it
hyped me
back.
up so
Stupid.
much. And yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed. I'm going to give it a 2 as well.
So overall,
This is not including Baby One
Baby
More
One
Time.
Yeah, we've specified.
That's not included. Very
That's
specifically.
100 out of whatever.
100 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
100
yeah.
out of 5.
Yeah.
Obviously.
As high as points we can give it. It was iconic.
Yeah, it went straight into my playlist, and I
Same.
I think I listened to it 3 times all the way back from the cinema.
It was the happiest I
So
was
good.
that day.
It's just so good. So spectacular. So what is the overall rating? I in my Letterboxd rating, I gave the film 4. Now, I don't know if that's what it would qualify based on like a calculation of my individual rankings, but I think overall as an experience, I still felt like I enjoyed it as a Kung Fu Panda movie. Did I feel like there were problems with the story and with the score and with other aspects of it? Yes. But I still sat down in that cinema and watched a Kung Fu Panda movie be released to my eyes in 2024, and that made me happy. And so
Fair enough.
I gave it 4 stars. That is lower than any of the other ones, but it's still all right. Maybe it's not worth that many stars, but that's what I'm going to leave it as because I ultimately enjoyed watching Jack Black as a panda beat people up.
Yeah, fair enough. I gave it a 3 on my Letterboxd review. I'm probably going to stay at that. I was bouncing back between 2.5 and 3.
I'm glad you gave it that extra half just because, like, I do feel like it rests on the laurels of the previous films.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like going so low as a 2, while it may deserve it as, like, I don't know if it would deserve that, but, like, if it was its own standalone film, that might feel more okay to me.
Yeah.
But because it is part of this franchise, which is so beloved and so high quality, it just wouldn't sit right with me.
Yeah, I agree. It was a Kung Fu Panda movie, like you said. I didn't hate it. I had a good time. I think the nicest thing I could say is if I was doing a Kung Fu Panda rewatch, I wouldn't not watch it. I wouldn't dread watching it either.
See, that's what I was considering. I was like,
Oh.
would I not watch it? And I was like, no, I wouldn't not watch it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be
I wouldn't be
so
excited to watch
happy
it,
that
no.
this is the end of the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That's
almost
it.
feel
It's
like
not
you
something
could
you'd-
watch 1, 2,
not something you'd look
4,
forward to.
3.
No, I'm not saying I'd be excited for it, but I wouldn't be like, no, I'm
Yeah.
not watching
Yeah.
that garbage.
I almost feel like in a way you could watch 1, then 2, then 4, and then 3. Even though 4 follows on from the plot of 3,
yeah.
3 feels like such a satisfying end
Mm-hmm.
that, like, if you ignore the whole stuff about Oogway setting, like, you need to find the next Dragon Warrior and handing over the staff, if you ignore that from 4, like, the events of 4 could happen before 3
Yeah.
if it was if, like, they didn't have that plot caveat about needing to find the next Dragon Warrior.
I think as a series, I'd rate them 2, 1, 3, and then a pretty big gap, and then 4. Unfortunately, like, I love this series, but I've just been let down. But tallying all the results, the official Film Society rating for Kung Fu Panda 4 is a 3,
That's what I thought it would
solid.
be. Yeah,
which is well,
fun. It's a fun
technically
film.
It's good.
a 6
It's not
out of
bad.
I enjoyed
technically
it.
6 out of 10. But
it's still fun. It's still a testament to what can be made when people enjoy what they're doing. It's just a shame that some aspects of it aren't as good as the previous ones.
yeah.
I would rank it 1, small gap, 3, 2 are pretty close together, then a big gap in 4.
We're gonna have to fight afterwards.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I need to rewatch too.
So last
What
I
would you
figure
rank it,
about-
Ollie?
I'm just gonna kill you.
It's definitely the lowest out of the 4 of them,
Yeah.
and it's got the biggest gap
Mm-hmm.
than, like, the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still going off my Letterboxd review. It's 1, then it's 2 and 3 tied, and then it's 4 is a bit further down than that.
Interesting.
But I feel like the gap, even though I've got 5 stars, 4.5 stars, 4 stars, I feel like the gap mentally and enjoyment is bigger than just half a star,
Mm-hmm.
even if I would still leave it at a 4-star rating.
Sure.
Well, that's Kung Fu Panda 4. I think the official recommendation is wait till it comes out on a streaming service.
Yeah, I don't think we need to see this in the theater.
Unless you
I think you should see it
Unless-
in theater.
unless you really want to go and see it, I definitely recommend taking your kids to it. They're gonna love it.
Yeah.
But
And Mr. Beast's in it. Jimmy Mr. Beast Donaldson.
they're definitely not.
That's
Oh my-
his full name. That's what it said in the credits.
I had no idea.
Jimmy
that was
Mr.
him.
Beast
That's so
Donaldson.
hilarious. I totally forgot that he was in it.
Jesus. Yeah. Okay.
It's solid.
It's alright.
Pretty forgettable, but
Pretty forgettable. Oh my goodness.
Mr. Beast.
that was being annoying.
I hope we see a resurgence in 5. I hope 5 blows everything out of the water. I know it's probably not going to, and I shouldn't be
just have to
setting
see.
expectations
Yeah.
because we don't know what's going to happen
I'll watch
with
it.
it.
I'll be there.
But
I will be
I
there
will
on
watch it.
opening day to watch number 5.
We will go
if it
to the
comes out.
midnight premiere.
But if worst comes to worst, we've
Bet.
still got 1 through 3.
Let's do
Bet.
it.
We'll all bet right now.
No.
If 5 comes out, we are all going to the midnight premiere together.
If Jack Black's somehow not in it, then I'm not gonna go.
If he dies, oh my goodness.
They
Don't say
couldn't
that.
call it Kung Fu Panda 5 without having Po.
What if it's
Well-
about Lee?
It's all about Lee.
It's all
He
about
did have
Lee.
some menacing moments. I loved
That
his.
scene was so good.
Anyway.
You know what scene I'm talking
It's very clever. Just to finish off, some Film Society stuff. So earlier this evening we had the trivia,
Yep.
which was awesome.
about. Went well.
Congratulations everybody who won a prize. I
Mhm.
completely forgot your team names. I'm so sorry. But we're going to make a post about that.
Yeah, we will.
on
Got some
Instagram.
photos.
The trivia is still happening every Tuesday though at the UC bar.
At
Not
5:30
necessarily run by us,
Yeah.
but definitely go
You
along.
might see
First
us there
prize
again
is
in the future.
an $80 bar voucher.
Mhm.
Second prize is a $40 bar
Not
voucher,
bad.
which is
Very
still
good.
pretty good. And if your team wins the season, it's $250 cash.
It's
So-
ridiculous.
I would highly
Wow.
recommend go along. But I think the next upcoming event is it the last Soviet screening?
It's a penultimate. There's 2 more.
2 more. Okay,
But
so
hopefully we're gonna
they
run
never
out.
end.
It's so good.
second
Such
last
good
Soviet
movies.
screening
Yeah.
will be Soviet film screening will be on Thursday next Thursday as of this release.
In 2B9 at 7, we're gonna be watching The Red and the White, which is a Soviet film.
Get
so what's
excited.
the date?
I don't know. I can't.
So
look
it's
at my
not this
calendar.
coming Thursday,
The
which
11th.
is in 2 days.
The
No, 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 no.
11th of
This comes
April.
out on Friday. It'll be on the
True.
11th of
The
April.
11th of April.
Everybody get excited. But we also have something that is in the planning at the
Yeah, we
moment.
shouldn't announce that. Yeah.
We shouldn't announce that. We're not going to announce that. Actually, no. There is one thing we can announce. The screening.
Yes.
So we're having a screening at the end of the semester for all of your films made in the, well, technically in the past 2 years, but anything you've made over the summer or during the semester. Highly recommend sticking it in there. It's a great way to get an audience in, to look at your film, possibly review it, get some feedback if you want to submit it to a festival without having to submit it to a festival. There's a lot of talented filmmakers that are going to be there and have some great advice that I definitely recommend listening to. I am very keen for it. And you can submit literally anything you want. Some of your first years, you'll shoot and edits, your weekly shoot and edits, your poetic
essay.
docos?
Filmic essay.
Filmic essay, sorry.
And poetic docos from Doco Production.
And short, is that short film production? That's the semester, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
And
And
character studies and your first short film of the whole degree.
yeah, so I'm super excited to see what you guys have come up with. I've heard many promising things from David and Rob, so I'm very excited. Definitely submit those. But apart from that, that's it for this week.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us for this week of Off Camera. We'll see you next week.
Wrap.
See ya.